What is going on, everybody? Non here, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about a concept that I had a conversation with a person in Discord the other day who understands the Japanese market, and the Japanese economy, and world, and calendar a lot better than I do. And he explained something to me that made a lot of sense. And this isn't something that I really had paid attention to in the past, but I have spent a lot of time talking about how Magic the Gathering releases tie to the Hasbro fiscal year, quarters, Wall Street estimates, etc. Well, it turns out that, not surprisingly, with the Pokemon Company, the release cadence, and more specifically, the power and the expected acceptance of the set, also really revolves around the Japanese fiscal calendar. Now, obviously, in the US, the majority of folks here are some sort of Christian religious wise, where December is a big religious month, holiday, etc. It's also the year end. In Japan, that's not the case. So, generally speaking, their fiscal year end is March 31st. However, they look at the year in two halves, which is effectively July 1st through December 31st, and then January 1st through June 30th, which wasn't something I was super familiar with. But then going on into the conversation, it started to make a lot of sense. And most of you should be aware that Pokemon is a private company, but they are owned at least a third officially by Nintendo. And was it Game Freak and Creatures, I think, are the two other owners off the top of my head. I could be wrong with one of those. Could potentially also be owned by Nintendo. So Nintendo certainly controls it. Nintendo absolutely consolidates their portion of the earnings into the company. We can see that in the financial statements. So there is, well, it's not quite as obvious and in your face as what Hasbro's doing with parachuting sets in to bridge revenue gaps. There is an aspect of that that goes on here. And let's start with 2025 in particular. So the year end in Japan, January in the US, high class / specialty set. This is the banger of the year. So the January set is always going to be the biggest set. Obviously, it is right around New Year. And in addition, it's also the biggest hit in the fiscal year going into the March 31st fiscal year end. It's also the first set in the first half of the year. Not quite as important as really closing out the fiscal year with a bang. And you can see here you have Ascended Heroes, Prismatic, Paldean Fates, Crown Zenith, nothing in 2022, Shining Fates. Now we're going back to 2021 COVID. So we can see these are by far the best sets of all of these years. Now, obviously, 2023, we'll get to 151, but we also have the summer specialty sets, and there's regular specialty sets, and then there's special specialty sets, and we'll talk about that in a second here. And what this does, this allows the Q1, so it's effectively the March release set, to be very weak. It's the worst set of the year by far. Every single year, it's a slow time. Also a slow time in Japan with the release. New Year ending, things slowly ramping up, people going back to work. For any of you that know anything about China, now obviously we're talking about Japan here, but the entire country shut down for a month for Chinese New Year, the end of January. So if you're trying to get any TCGs printed, Cyberpunk, you're going to be in for a bad time just because everything shuts down. But it makes sense. So we look at this perfect order. Going to be the worst set of the year. Drew Together was the worst set of the year last year. Temporal the year before. At that time, it was the worst set. I mean, every set at that point was the worst set because we were in the bear market. And then you go back to Scarlet and Violet base. And if you guys recall, the new base set of each era is a January set. And they know the set is most likely just going to be shit. And as we go into Q1 of 2027, perhaps it's Aura Seeker is the new base set. Maybe that's the March set. But either way, we look at it. Q1 of 2027 is most likely going to be Gen 10 set. And then that brings us to, and right here I have, kind of the cadence here. So you have hot in January, mid, this is actually weak. We'll just put that here. And now you have the end of the quarter. You go into Q2, which is the first set of the fiscal year. It's also the last set of the first half of the year. And in Japanese culture, apparently, again, not Japanese, that mid-year point is kind of a cleansing, a reset period. If you're Japanese, feel free to comment. But my understanding is that that is a very much ingrained psychological reset in the country. So Q2, we have mid sets, but they've been improving. So Chaos Rising, it's going to be a better set than the Q1 set. Not going to be better, but it's better. Destiny Rivals last year, I think, is a little bit of the anomaly. I also think it significantly outperformed what their expectations were. Twilight Masquerade, again, it's interesting because we have Greninja set 2 out of 3 years in Q2, which is a little bit unique. Then we go down here to Paldea Evolved. When it came out, it was kind of shit on. Astro Radiance, again, a big, big set. Chilling Rain as well. So, and that's the other thing. The Q1 sets, at least recently, have been smaller. Q2, I guess Chaos Rising smaller, but Destin's big. Twilight's big. Paldea is reasonably big. Astral's a huge set. And then we go into the Summer Specialty set. And the reason I call it the Summer Specialty set is some years it's a July set. And then other years when there's a special set, it pushes till September, October. And the reason it pushes to September, October, they have to increase the print run, and they're printing a lot more. So they're switching spots between that Q3 set, and they're accelerating it. So, for example, in 2021, Evolving Skies came out in August. Celebrations came out in October. So these two flip-flopped. The same in 2023. SV151 came out the end of September. Obsidian Flames came out, I believe, in August as well. Now, the last few years, we haven't seen that. We've seen Shrouded Fable, which quite honestly was rushed. So the set was legal for Worlds. I believe it was in Hawaii, for those of you who remember. And I think the ETBs didn't ship for like a month after release. It was a complete shit show. And then Black and White last year. Good sets, nowhere close to Prismatic. And then we look at this year. So this year, and again, this is starting the second half off with a bang. It doesn't need to be the same bang that you're getting in January as you're closing out the fiscal year. But what's interesting is, are they going to move Pitch Black up? Pitch Black is most likely going to be the name of the Abyssai set. Abyssai, I think, was already spoiled in Japan. It's the Darkrai set. What's interesting is if they have a Dark Charizard in the set. If they do, it's going to be absolutely insane. But since this set is currently being printed, I would assume it's probably going to be a July release. And then the anniversary set, instead of being 4.5, is going to be 5.5. And that's going to be a September release, most likely. So my best guess is September 25th of 2026. And then if we look at the rest of these, Mega Evolution is mid plus. Stellar Crown, when it came out, they thought it was going to be mid plus because you have Terapagos, which is big in the anime, in the game. Not too much, but you also had the Squirtle and Bulbasaur to offset the Charizard that I think was in 151. So that was in there. Obsidian Flames, again, mid plus. Charizard set, Lost Origin, Evolving Skies. Obviously, Evolving Skies is the hottest regular set we've had in a while. So Q3 is really starting to ramp up and really starting to get things going into the back half of the year. And again, with Pitch Black, if it's a Dark Charizard set, it's going to continue to follow suit. So hopefully you guys are seeing that the ebb and flow of this is really intended to be a similar impact in each one of these slots. Now, obviously, the acceptance rate, especially in the North American culture here, it's going to vary from set to set, from year to year. But I think we can all agree Ascended Heroes and Prismatic Evolutions, pretty damn close. Crown Zenith, pretty damn close. Paldean Fates, maybe a slight half step behind those sets, but with the Bubble Mew, pretty damn close. And then we go into the Q4 set. And the Q4 set again, we're absolutely on fire, trying to go in and crush the year end. Storm Emeralda, I don't even know how you say that, which is the Rayquaza set, is probably going to be November 20th release. The week after that is Thanksgiving. So they generally release a set before Thanksgiving because the Pilgrims did not land in in Japan. So there's really no Thanksgiving. You have Phantasmal, which again, I think most of us thought it was going to be a little bit on the weekend. It was a home run. Surging Sparks, when it came out, everybody thought it was going to be a great set. It was. Paradox Rift, I think it was just, it would have been a plus set if it didn't come out when it came out. Silver Tempest was a good set. Now, again, kind of right in the dirge of the bear market. And then, Fusion is as well. But if either one of these sets came out now, they would be very, very highly regarded. So I wanted to walk through this because it's really not anything that anybody talks about. And it was something that was a little new to me, which I thought was interesting. So I want to share it. Again, I am kind of expecting Pitch Black, so Mega 5 to pull in here. And then the anniversary set to move into the Q3 slot, which is September. And then, no idea what the year-end set's going to be. In fact, we may not even have it right here. If you notice, there's no January set for 2022 because Celebrations printed and went right through. And this was September, October. Because I think, as I mentioned, Evolving was August. There was no set here. So I would imagine there may not be a January specialty set this year because it's most likely going to be taken up by 30th anniversary and a multitude of other SKUs. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and we'll talk tomorrow.